Everybody wants to experience peace of mind, but one cannot just experience peace of mind by wanting to experience peace of mind, because the mind is an organ of the soul, and when the soul is in karmic bondage, then the mind is not free to choose. You see, beggars cannot be choosers, slaves cannot be choosers. And even if we want to make the choice that my mind wants to feel peaceful or create thoughts of peace, one would be unable to do so because there is karmic bondage in which the soul is trapped. Yes, and you see that karma liberates us, karma traps us. When the soul performs karma, the karma through thought, word, and deed, or through body, mind, and wealth, it is the soul which is performing those acts. And when the soul performs actions, those actions have consequences. And those actions either put the soul in bondage or they liberate the soul. So the soul through its own actions comes into bondage of karma. Let me give you a very mundane example. Let's say there is a person who commits some action through the body or through wealth. So, there is financial crime, there is physical crime. So, or there is, there are other crimes which people commit these days. So, let's say there is a person who commits a crime through money, or a person who commits a crime through the body, and then that person just decides that I don't want to bear the consequences of that crime. Yes, and I want to just feel like nobody's after me, and nobody can complain about me, or I can never be trapped, or I can never fall into trouble because of what I did. So that's not happening, you see. The mind will always live in fear that, I might get caught or I might get trapped, and then I will have to suffer in the prison for that. So similarly, you see, when a person commits something which is against the law of the land, then that person cannot be in peace after that. Yes, so you have to bear the punishment. You cannot be free after that, because your own karma puts you in bondage. And a similar thing applies to spiritual laws also. So just like you see that even if you do not know the law of the land, you are still liable to be tried against the law, so tried in the court of the law of land. Similarly, whether we are aware or unaware of the spiritual laws, when we do something which is against the spiritual laws, then we come into bondage of karma. And the karma that we perform through body, mind, and wealth, which is against spiritual laws, which is against purity, which is against Shrimat, which is against, the original qualities of the soul, which is against the, the virtues and powers of the soul. When we do this karma, then it puts us in bondage. And you see that there was this lady, and she was once sharing with me that there was some physical acts, based on lust, that were performed in the life, in her life. And then she was saying that I am having acute depression and I cannot get over that whole episode, and I cannot, my heart is full of guilt and shame, and I don't know how to deal with it, and my mind is never at peace. I am feeling very depressed, very anxious. So you see that there are spiritual laws when you cross the line of, when you cross the line of purity, of peace, of love, and when you do something based on lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed, then that karma puts you in karmic bondage. Now, let me tell you one thing about. So, here, it's also very important to distinguish between karma that is spiritually wrong and karma that is morally wrong. So, you see that in the world we don't know spiritual laws, right? So, because everybody is acting out of lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed, so we don't really, in the world, we don't appreciate the value of not falling into the trap of lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed, right? But because from the copper age, these vices crept in, so we devised a code for ourselves, yes, the moral code. And based on different cultures, different societies, different religions, there was a moral code. And that moral code told us that, you are allowed to be operating under lust, anger, ego, attachment, and greed, but let us just put some, some conditions on this. So you are allowed to engage in lust with your spouse once you're married, but if you're unmarried and you engage in lust, then that's a sin. And if you engage in lust with somebody other than your spouse, then that's a sin. And then, if you are in a male body, you are allowed a little, but if you are in a female body, then that's a complete sin. So these are some things that were fed into us. And then, anger. So when you are angry on somebody who is wrong, then it's not a sin. But when you are angry on somebody who is, powerless and a small child or a needy or somebody who is right, then it is a sin. So you see, we put these conditions on whether an act of sin qualifies as a sin or not based on human thought, human dictates. And then over time, these moral codes keep changing. So, these moral codes, they don't stay the same, and then with time, people try to just change the moral code by putting some other conditions into it or relaxing those conditions a little. So, I remember, there was this one young girl who used to come to the center, and she told me that I have never been disloyal with any of my boyfriends. And I said, you've had many boyfriends, and then you also think that there is loyalty. So how do you put this together? So she told me something very interesting. She said that in our generation, if you are not having two boyfriends at the same time, then you are having two boyfriends at two different times. So you leave one and then you have a relationship with another, then that's loyalty. But if you have two boyfriends at the same time, then that's not okay. Then you are being disloyal. So, so she taught me this new moral code of the new generation. So you see that, with every generation, with every passing time, there is a shift in the moral code. And but you see that morality is human made, and morality is manmat, it is the dictate of the human mind, and spirituality is the truth which comes from Shibaba. So whether we know the spiritual law or not, but whenever the spiritual law is broken, even if it is permitted by the moral code, still you will suffer, or your mind can't be at peace. So you see that because mostly in society, we don't know the truth, we don't know the spiritual laws, we only know morality. So if you are morally right also, then 90% of the social people of the society who consider them to be morally right, they are performing sins, but they are all okay with that, because that is something that fits into the moral code. But then this is why unhappiness and peacelessness is not an exception, it is the norm today. So you see that as a society, we are becoming depressed and anxious, and the degree of peacelessness, the degree of unhappiness is rising tremendously, because it doesn't matter whether you know spiritual laws or not. It doesn't matter whether you are breaking spiritual laws with the mindset that you're conforming to moral codes. It doesn't matter. What matters is spiritual truths are spiritual truths. From the copper age, we forget the spiritual truths. We forget that lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed are vices, and we start acting out of them. And when we do that, whenever we do that, any act performed through the body, mind, or wealth which is based on these vices will always put you in bondage, and it will not allow your mind to be peaceful. And although there is a general acceptability of how much peacelessness is okay. So in these days, when you go to the doctor or the psychiatrist or the psychologist, they will not label you as depressed or anxious or whatever. But if you ask anybody on earth, they are all peaceless and unhappy. So the degree, there is a certain degree of unhappiness and peacelessness which we call as this is really troublesome, and then we label that degree of unhappiness and peacelessness as abnormal. And that also starts changing with time, because you see that when we were little, so so if we couldn't get up in time, or we couldn't pay attention to studies, or we were not up and about and active, and if we spoke words which were not okay, then our parents started saying, they used to point out that there's something not okay with you. But these days, even if somebody is not getting sleep or getting up late or being very indisciplined, then they say it's normal. These days we say it's normal and it is very okay, because we have accepted peacelessness and happiness and the standards on which we check that how much peacelessness, how much unhappiness is abnormal. That has the bar is shifting lower and lower, and every day we are shifting it further, so that we can be abnormal and be labeled as normal. So we are all doing that. And Baba says that no amount of peacelessness, no amount of unhappiness is normal for a soul, because a soul is God's child, and I, the soul, am entitled, or it is my birthright to be ever happy, ever peaceful, ever joyful, have every action as accurate and powerful. So, I am naturally designed, it is my blueprint to be naturally active, disciplined, have full attention on everything, be very disciplined and be on time, be in harmony with souls, with nature, with the 24-hour clock, everything. That is my natural state. But Baba says that, you have shifted on the basis of morality and on the basis of, again, science will say something, medicine will say something, but all that doesn't fit into the laws of spirituality. And Baba tells us that whenever you break a spiritual law, ever since the Copper Age, when the souls started acting, using their body, mind, and wealth on the basis of lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed, that is the time from which we started coming into bondage. And that bondage is not allowing our minds, our buddhis, to function accurately. And our mind is designed to be ever happy, ever peaceful, or our buddhi is designed to, think correctly, have accurate decision making, have accurate, discernment, or have absolute concentration. So, that's the quality of the buddhi, that you can focus on whatever you want for however long you want. That's how the buddhi is designed. The buddhi is designed to discern accurately and decide accurately. But why we are not able to do that is because we have been performing these actions, and these actions based on vices have put us into karmic bondage. And today suddenly, we have this awareness and awakening in the world also, that people want to improve decision making, people want to improve concentration, people want that their mind should be peaceful. But then Baba says that's not happening until you don't finish the karmic bondage that you have carried with you. And Baba says, I'm the only one who teaches you how to finish that karmic bondage through knowledge and yoga. So when we understand, we get the knowledge of who we are, and the knowledge of, good karma, bad karma, and neutral karma, 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 and vikarma. We get the knowledge of that. And when we get Shrimat, that is, what karma should we perform to move from this degraded to elevated state. So Baba says, when you start acting on Shrimat, when you start using your body, mind, and wealth on Shrimat, when you get up to remember Baba, when you eat pure food, when you spend every penny and everything that you earn for world seva, when you use your body to do seva, when you use your body to just create good karma, when you use your mind to create good fishes and good feelings all through the day, and when you refrain from any action performed through body, mind, and wealth based on lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed. Because if you check properly, all our actions are motivated by vices. And Baba says that now let all your actions be indirect actions, not directly for the wealth you earn, not directly for the person you are performing acts for, but let them be indirect actions done for me in my remembrance towards, others. So be a karm yogi, which means you go to office, but you don't go to office to earn money. You go to office to do your work in Baba's remembrance, and you use the proceeds of whatever comes from the office with a big heart, dividing it properly between whatever you need to sustain this life and this birth's karmic accounts, and for Vishwa Seva. So Baba says, when you start doing acts like a karm yogi, when you start doing acts on Shrimad, and when you start doing acts not for somebody or something, because whenever we are doing anything, we are doing it for something or for someone. So let's say you are eating food, you're doing it for the tongue, yes, or you're doing it for the stomach. But Baba says, don't eat for the tongue, don't eat for the stomach. Eat like a trustee, that it is Shibaba Shrimat that I'm allowed to eat this. So I can only eat what I'm allowed, and I'm eating because Baba has given me this body, and I want to be a trustee of this body and take care of this body well. So it's not my body and I'm not feeding my stomach. It is Shiv Baba's instrument and I'm feeding this body. So Baba says that when you start performing every action, on Shrimad, then knowledgeful and yog-yukt actions, actions which come from knowledge and yoga. So when you do that, then slowly, gradually, you will be able to finish your karmic bondage. And when you finish your karmic bondage, only then will your mind and your buddhi and your sanskar function like they are designed to function. And then you will not have to think about, I want to feel peaceful and I want to have good concentration. No, it will all come naturally to you. You will make good decisions. And I have seen that, because you see that when we came to Gyan, we were not, so I didn't knack my brain a lot when I came into Gyan. And I just felt, there was this deep feeling that this is God and whatever He's saying is true. And I went by that feeling and I started doing whatever Baba was telling me to do. So, when Baba said, remember me, I remembered Baba. When Baba said, have purity in life, I started doing that. When Baba said, be a karm yogi, I started doing that. Baba said, you're a sevadhari, I started doing that. And I slowly realized that my mind started becoming free of fear, of overthinking, of anything that used to come to my mind. It slowly started going away. And it was not something that I did for my mind. I just followed Shrimat and this happened. And then I had enhanced discernment and decision making, and I could have very good concentration and all of that. And it all came naturally because that's the original design of the soul. And Baba says, you don't have to rub the soul clean, you don't have to. It's just that this whole process of following Shrimat is so cleansing in itself that the original quality, the original powers of the soul come back, and the soul is able to feel like itself. The mind will create the thoughts and feelings that suit the soul in its original quality. So Baba says that this is what will happen, and I am the only one who can teach you how to break this cycle of karmic bondage, because until and unless you have knowledge, and until and unless you be a karm yogi and do everything in my remembrance, and you have indirect relationship with people and things and jobs and direct relationships with me, these karmic bondages are not going to break. Because what is your motivation to come into action if it is not lust, anger, ego, attachment and greed? That is why when sannyasis started understanding that these vices are, our enemy, then what they did is they left their homes and jobs and went to the jungle, because people think that when there is no motivation by vices, then what else is the motivation to perform any action anyway? So Baba says that you have to perform actions, but based on Shrimat, based on self realization, based on the realization that you are a world benefactor and you are here to serve, not on the, not based on the I and my consciousness that you are trained into for performing actions. So this is something. And then Baba today says that, Baba always tells in the Murli that it is not the mind that is peaceless. Mind is an organ of the soul, and it is the soul that is peaceless. And because the soul is not in self realization, and when the soul is not in self realization, in the realization of its virtues, its powers, its father, then the mind can't be peaceful. And I remember there was this one Mata, and she was once sharing with me that I had some, she said that I had some problems with my father. And then, there was this big fight, and then there were bad words exchanged. And then after that, I left home, and my father died 3 days later. And then she said that because my father died, now I don't have the chance to tell sorry to him. And now what do? I have to live with this guilt, with this, this burden of sin all my life, because my father is already dead, so I cannot go and apologize to that soul. And when she said this, so then I gave her the course, and then I told her that, you see, Baba says that I am a soul and I perform actions through the body, through the mind, through wealth. And when I perform actions, even if the recipient of the action is a human being, still my karma is an energy I create and I send that way, right? And it is that creation of energy which is putting me into burden. And to liberate myself from that creation, what I have to do is create the opposite kind of energy. Even if the recipient is not the same person, you just create the opposite kind of energy, and that will free you from what you have created in the past. So it doesn't matter whether your father is alive, or he left the body, or he is in this body or not in this body. But if you just, you created thoughts of hatred, or you spoke words of hatred, or you spoke words of anger, you spoke words of ego. Now what you have to do is, you have to think, speak and act with knowledge, purity, peace, love, joy. And when you do that, then that karma will set you free. And this is what Baba tells us, that you don't need to correct everything on the outside. It's just what's coming from inside to outside that you need to check and change. And Baba says that when the soul is aware of itself, and when the soul is aware of the Father, then what you stop is this exchange from here to here, and you start taking from Baba and performing acts knowledgefully, peacefully, blissfully, lovefully. And when you start performing these pure actions, then those actions will set you free. But until and unless you know yourself, you know your Father, then you will always perform actions in body consciousness. Yes, so let's say you think you are an engineer, and then you are out of job. then what is your motivation to perform actions? Nothing. But when you know you are a soul, then you can, you know that engineering is just a job I do, but then I am a soul, and every second I am creating thought, word, and deed, and that action has to be taken care of. And I don't have to behave like an engineer, I have to behave like a soul whose father is God, the ocean of virtues and powers himself. So Baba says that self-realization and realizing your father, realizing your powers, realizing your virtues will set you free, because when you realize yourself, then self-awareness motivates pure actions. The awareness that I am the child of God motivates pure actions. And otherwise, you always need a reason in the old world to perform actions, and the old world doesn't give you reasons to perform good actions. And then what happens is you keep saying I am right, and you, or being guilty is morally right, and I have to live this life in pain and sorrow because my father died and I couldn't apologize to him. So the old world, and when you get into the trap of morality and other stuff in the old world, then what happens is you only get motivated to perform actions which are based on sorrow, grief, shame, guilt, lust, anger, ego, and other stuff. So Baba says it's very important that you realize yourself, you realize your father, and start performing actions which are not motivated by the old world, but motivated by self-realization and realization of your father. So this is something very important. And then in the Murli today, Baba says that we must not waste. So fast effort makers, they don't waste their time and thought, time and words. And Baba says they realize the value of their time, of every second, and of every word they speak. And every thought and word they create is accurate and powerful. Yes, every thought and word they create is accurate and powerful. And today Baba is emphasizing more on words. So Baba says you don't speak words of expansion, you don't speak unnecessary words. Every word is accurate and powerful. So you see that you speak less, you speak softly, and you speak sweetly when you speak accurate and powerful words. And accurate and powerful words are not many. So you see that when you are excited, when you are in ego, when you are in, when you are emotional, when you are under the influence of attachment or something else, you speak words which are more and not accurate in nature. But you see that I'll give you one very simple example. It happened yesterday, and there is this Kanya, and she said that my father is my father is very angry that I come to the center. And then she told me that, so I challenged my father that you can go to the center, go in any class, and then you can speak whatever you want, and then you will get the answers. So when she said that, so she called me and she said that this is what I told my father. So I said, no, you shouldn't encourage your father to come to the center and put a tamasha here. Yes, so you should encourage your father to come at a time when we are free and when there is no class, and we should talk to him personally, and then we will tell him what this is about and this and that. But if he comes in a crowd and he does that, okay, we will manage that also if he does it anyway. But that shouldn't come from you, right? Because that's not what you should suggest to your father. So, why did we say this? Because you see, sometimes, even when you have love for Baba, your faith in Baba, sometimes you are not looking at, you're not being Trikaldarshi. You're not thinking that, when this happens and this person accepts the challenge, then he would come at a time when the Murli is going on and there would be nobody to attend to him personally. And at that time, if he comes with a different idea, then the kind of love and the kind of, time he deserves so that his idea can change, that won't be available. And then that whole thing will go to, will be a waste, because that whole time will be wasted and he won't get anything that he could get from Baba's house. So I'm giving this example because sometimes, we are excited and then we don't understand the accuracy of words. So Baba says that, we are Trikaldarshi. So whenever we speak, we have to be knowledgeful. We have to see that, whatever we are speaking, what are the consequences that this will have. And then when you think so much before speaking, then obviously you will not speak excess or wasteful, and your words will be less. And when you are in remembrance of Baba, then obviously your words will be sweet and soft also. So you will not try to challenge somebody or do something. And even if somebody is coming with that tone at you, so, somebody is just coming at you with that tone and with that ego, you don't have to absorb their energy and speak in the same manner. So, accurate actions can only happen when you are in remembrance of Baba. And when your Buddhi Yoga is with a situation, with a person or their behavior, then mostly you tend to perform inaccurate actions, whether it is the action of thought or word, but those actions tend to be inaccurate. So it is very important to center yourself, that stabilize yourself in your swadharma, in remembrance of Baba before speaking anything, so that your words are accurate, and when they are put into action, they give results which you don't regret ever. Okay, Om Shanti.